She thought she was done. She thought the work was complete. But the truth is, the journey wasn't asking her to wait for him. It was asking her to rise into herself. This is the final stage of the twin flame journey. It's not about chasing, it's not about proving, and it's not about fixing him. It's about the divine feminine stepping into the one thing she always avoided, choosing herself so fully that nothing remains unfinished within her soul. Because when she does, the entire connection either transforms or dissolves. The universe doesn't need her to wait. It needs her to embody. And the moment she finally claims that truth, nothing about this bond will ever be the same. You thought this journey was about waiting for him. You thought if you healed enough, released enough, forgave enough, he would finally come. And maybe, deep down, a part of you believed that the finish line was him showing up. But that's not the truth. Because the final stage of the twin flame journey isn't about him, it's about you. The divine feminine doesn't arrive at union by being chosen. She arrives by choosing herself, fully, unapologetically, without holding a single piece of her soul hostage for his return. This is the part no one tells you, that the last layer isn't about opening to him. It's about closing the gap inside yourself. The gap where you've waited, the gap where you've doubted, the gap where you've thought, maybe I'm not enough until he comes back. You see, the masculine can only mirror what you've embodied. If you're still waiting, he will wait. If you're still half in, he will stay half in. If you're still holding your breath for him to make the choice, then the energy between you will keep circling without landing. So the final stage is radical, it's fierce. It asks you to stop orbiting his potential and return to your own. It looks like no longer begging your body to hold the pain. It looks like no longer silencing your voice just to keep the fantasy alive. It looks like no longer bargaining with the universe, saying, I'll love myself if he comes. No. This stage says, I'll love myself because I deserve to be loved, with or without him. And here's the mystery that makes this stage so powerful. When the divine feminine finally chooses herself, she stops running the old program. She stops needing him to validate the connection. She stops leaking energy into someday and starts living as if the reunion already happened inside of her. That's when everything changes. Because the masculine cannot hide from a feminine who has stopped waiting, her energy becomes undeniable. She no longer pulls at him with need. She calls him with truth, and he can feel it in his chest, in his dreams, in the silence he tries to escape. But whether he rises to meet it or not is no longer her concern, because she is no longer living half alive, holding space for someone else's awakening. She is living whole. And this is what union really means. Not two halves desperately trying to fit together, but two wholes meeting from overflow. So if you've been asking yourself why the cycle keeps repeating, why the silence feels heavier now, why even the signs don't hit the same way anymore, it may be because your soul knows. You've reached the stage where waiting is no longer an option, where begging is no longer aligned, where your body, your voice, your spirit demand, choose yourself now. And when you do, something irreversible happens. The cords of fear dissolve. The craving for his approval burns away. The ache that once felt unbearable becomes fuel for your sovereignty. This isn't about walking away in anger. It's not about punishing him with absence. It's about anchoring so deeply into your own essence that even his presence doesn't define your worth. Because the truth is, divine feminine, you were never waiting for him. You were always waiting for the moment you would stop betraying yourself. And that moment, it's here, it's now, it's the final stage. So are you ready to step into the part of the journey where you no longer ask, when will he do it? And instead embody the one thing that changes everything. I've already done it. In me, for me, as me. That's the shift. That's the completion. That's the moment the journey turns from endless longing into embodied union. Why it's never about fixing him. From the beginning, you were told this connection was about healing him. That if you could just hold enough space, forgive enough times, love without conditions, somehow he would change. And for a while, you believed it. You believed that your role as the divine feminine was to carry his wounds until he was ready to put them down. You believed that if you could love him past his pain, he would rise. But let me tell you the truth. The twin flame journey was never about fixing him. It was never about dragging him into awakening by sacrificing your own. Because when you try to fix him, you step out of your own alignment. You shift the focus away from your path, your body, your soul, and you make him the project. But he was never meant to be your project. He was meant to be your mirror. And mirrors aren't there to be changed. They're there to show you what's already inside of you. Think about it. How many times have you twisted yourself into knots, thinking, if I just show him more love, he'll see? How many nights did you cry, believing that if you healed fast enough, he would finally feel safe enough to return? How many times did you mistake his resistance for your failure? But none of those moments were about him. They were about you learning to release the addiction to being the healer. Because the final stage of the feminine is not healing him. It's healing the part of you that thought you had to. Do you see the difference? When you stop trying to fix him, you return to your own power. You stop pouring your energy into someone else's choices, and you finally ask, where have I abandoned myself while trying to save him? And the answers come. In the moments you ignored your body because you were waiting for his call. In the days you silenced your voice because you feared it would scare him away. In the nights you prayed for his awakening while refusing to honor your own exhaustion. That's what this stage reveals. It was never about fixing him. It was about recognizing how much of yourself you placed on hold while waiting for his transformation. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to fix him, the energy between you actually shifts. Because he can no longer lean on your unconditional yes as a shield from his own growth. He feels the absence of your rescuing. He feels the silence where your soothing once was. And suddenly, he has to face himself. That's the divine design. Your healing never came from changing him. It came from changing the way you abandoned yourself in the process. And his awakening, that never comes because you drag him there. It comes because you stop dragging. Because you stand in your wholeness so completely that he has no choice but to see the gap in himself. This is why the universe never asked you to fix him. Because every attempt to heal him without his choice is interference. And interference only delays the very awakening you're longing for. So, Divine Feminine, hear this clearly. You are not his savior. You are not his mother. You are not the one who carries the responsibility of his soul. You are the one who carries your own. And that is more than enough. So the question is not, how can I fix him? The question is, how can I stop betraying myself by believing he is broken? Because he's not. He's on his path, just like you. And the most powerful thing you can do for him is stop trying to do anything for him. Return to you, return to your body, return to the silence that says, he is not mine to heal, he is his own, and I am mine. That is the liberation. That is the wisdom of this stage. And that is why, Divine Feminine, it was never about fixing him. There comes a moment in this journey where you realize the universe has stopped sending you signs about him. The numbers still flash, the dreams still come, the energy is still alive, but the signs no longer point toward him, they point toward you. This is the last mirror, and it's the most confronting one, because for so long the mirror showed you him, his absence, his wounds, his silence. Every rejection became an echo of your own unhealed places. Every distance became a reminder of where you still abandoned yourself. But at this stage, the universe shifts the reflection. It no longer shows you what he isn't doing. It shows you what you still refuse to do. And that's why it feels heavier. That's why the silence stings in a different way now. Not because he is more absent, but because your soul is louder. The last mirror is this: you cannot wait for him to make the choice you refuse to make for yourself. You cannot demand his authenticity while you are still hiding behind hope. You cannot ask for his devotion while you are still giving your power to absence. This mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't let you escape into the fantasy of one day. It forces you to stand in the truth of today. And the truth is, you've always had the power to close the cycle. Not by forcing him, not by fixing him, but by finally refusing to betray yourself in the name of love. So the universe shows you. It shows you where your body tightens every time you wait for a message. It shows you where your heart aches because you keep replaying the same story. It shows you where your energy drains, not because of what he's doing, but because of what you're still tolerating inside yourself. That's the mirror. That's the last lesson. And it hurts, doesn't it? Because facing yourself without the distraction of him is the most raw initiation of all. It's easy to point to his silence. It's easy to say, he's not ready. It's easy to make his resistance the reason for your waiting. But when the mirror shifts, you can no longer escape. The silence becomes your own. The waiting becomes your own. The wound becomes your own. And that's when the real choice arrives. Do you keep waiting for him to show up? Or do you finally show up for yourself? This is the last mirror, the one where the divine feminine realizes he was never the problem. My own refusal to choose myself was. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending he holds the key. You can't keep pretending the journey will end when he knocks on your door. No. The journey ends when you open the door to yourself. When you choose the love you've been giving away. When you anchor so deeply into your own being that whether he rises or not, your wholeness is already complete. That's the mirror, the last one, the one that doesn't let you hide anymore. And here's the paradox. When you finally pass this test, when you stop making his choices the mirror of your worth, he feels it. The masculine feels the shift in his bones because the mirror turns on him now. Your freedom exposes his chains. Your wholeness reveals his fragmentation. And he is left with the reflection he's been running from all along. But that's not your concern anymore, because you're no longer holding his awakening hostage. Inside, you're waiting. You're no longer bargaining with the universe. You've looked into the last mirror and you've chosen yourself. And that choice, that's what completes the feminine side of the journey. That's what unlocks the energy of true union, the kind that doesn't come from fixing, chasing, or waiting, but from being. So, Divine Feminine, if you've been wondering why the cycle feels heavier now, why the silence feels unbearable, why nothing outside of you satisfies anymore, it's because you're standing in front of the last mirror, and it will keep reflecting until you decide, not him, not someday, not when he's ready. Now, you, here. This is the last test. This is the last mirror. And the reflection you choose today is what will define everything that comes next. There is a point where the Divine Feminine realizes the entire journey was never about waiting for him to choose her. It was always about her choosing herself. For lifetimes, her energy was trained to bend, to accommodate, to carry the weight of everyone else's awakening. She was told that love meant sacrifice. She was told that to be worthy, she had to prove her patience, her purity, her devotion. And so she waited, she endured. She poured every drop of herself into the holding space for him, for his wounds, for his silence, for his fear. But then comes the moment when her soul can no longer pretend. The silence becomes unbearable, not because of him, but because she can feel herself screaming underneath it. The ache shifts. It is no longer the ache of missing him. It is the ache of missing herself. This is the turning point. The universe will keep showing her this until she understands. The door to union has always been inside of her, and it only unlocks when she chooses herself. But what does that mean? It means she no longer negotiates with her own soul. It means she stops betraying her body by waiting for breadcrumbs of love. It means she listens when her intuition says, enough. It means she chooses peace over fantasy, truth over illusion, embodiment over longing. This choice is not soft. It is fierce. It is the kind of choice that shakes everything inside of her. Because for so long, she thought choosing herself meant losing him. But the truth is, not choosing herself is what's been losing her all along. Think about it. How many times did she ignore her needs because she thought, if I just hold on a little longer, he'll come? How many times did she silence her voice because she didn't want to scare him away? How many times did she pour her devotion into someone who wasn't ready to receive it, while leaving her own soul starving? Choosing herself means she stops. She stops waiting for him to validate what she already knows. She stops bending her worth around his absence. She stops giving her power away to silence. And the moment she does this, everything shifts. Because choosing herself is not the end of the bond. It's the transformation of it. It's the exact energy the masculine was always waiting to feel from her, even if he never admitted it. Because when she finally stands in her own truth, she becomes unmovable. And that stillness is the very force that shakes him awake. But here's the paradox. She doesn't choose herself to wake him up. She chooses herself because she's done abandoning her soul. Whether he rises or not, whether he comes or not, whether he chooses her or not, she has chosen herself. And in that choice, she is free. This is the real key. The key that unlocks union is not him changing. It's her no longer waiting for change. It's her embodying the love she once reserved for him and pouring it back into herself. And it's not selfishness. It's not pride. It's not anger. It's alignment. Because the feminine cannot carry this bond into union if she is still fractured within herself. Her wholeness is the doorway. Her embodiment is the foundation. Her choice is the key. And once she turns that key, the entire energy changes. The universe rearranges around her. The masculine feels the shift instantly, not because she reached out, not because she explained, not because she begged, but because her field is different. Her silence is no longer waiting. Her silence is power. Her stillness is not absence. It is presence, anchored deep into her soul. And that presence burns him. It burns away every excuse, every delay, every distraction. Because now he cannot hide behind her devotion anymore. He is left with himself. And for the first time, she is not standing in the way. This is why choosing herself is the key. Because until she does, the bond is heavy. It cycles. It repeats. It drains. But the moment she locks into her own truth, the karmic loops break. The cycle ends. The waiting dissolves. She realizes she was never waiting for him. She was waiting for herself. And now that she's here, present, whole, anchored, everything shifts. The masculine feels it. The energy of the connection recalibrates. The pathway to union opens, not because she chased it, but because she claimed it within herself. So, Divine Feminine, if you've been asking, when will he choose me? The answer has always been when you choose yourself first. And when you do, the journey changes forever because you become the key. How this changes the bond forever. When the Divine Feminine finally chooses herself, the entire architecture of the bond shifts. It is as if the very foundation, the connection, was built on crumbles, not because the bond is weak, but because the illusion it stood on can no longer survive. For so long, the energy moved in circles. She gave, he resisted. She waited, he avoided. She hoped, he hid. It was a cycle of mirrored wounds, each of them reflecting the other's unhealed places. But once she chooses herself, the cycle ends. The masculine no longer has her devotion as a shield. He no longer has her waiting as a hiding place. He no longer has her energy to lean on while denying his own awakening. The game collapses. The excuses dissolve, and the truth rises. This is the moment the bond changes forever, because now it exists only in truth. Without her energy fueling the illusion, he feels the absence like a fire, not because she is gone, but because for the first time she is untouchable. Her presence is no longer about him. It is about her, and that difference is undeniable. For the feminine, this change feels like liberation. She no longer wakes up wondering what he is doing. She no longer aches for the text that never comes. She no longer negotiates her worth against his silence. She breathes deeper. She feels lighter. Her body begins to heal from years of carrying energy that wasn't hers. Her spirit expands in ways she forgot were possible. And for the masculine, the change is devastating because he feels the full weight of what he has been avoiding. Her energy no longer cushions his denial. Her love no longer absorbs his resistance. Her silence is no longer a safe distance. It is a mirror. And in that mirror, he sees himself with no filters. This is the true dark night for the masculine. Because as long as she was waiting, he could convince himself there was time. As long as she was holding on, he could pretend he wasn't losing her. As long as she was pouring into the bond, he could keep running without consequence. But when she chooses herself, all of that collapses. Suddenly, time is no longer infinite. Suddenly, the distance is not safe. It is unbearable. Suddenly, he realizes the bond is not guaranteed because she has stepped into a version of herself that no longer negotiates with absence. And here's the paradox. Her freedom is the very thing that awakens him. because it confronts him with the truth he's been running from. She never needed him. She wanted him. She loved him. She chose him. But she was always whole without him. That truth breaks him open. It shatters his ego. It dismantles the false power he thought he had by staying silent, by resisting, by hiding. He realizes that her love was never a guarantee. It was a gift, and now that gift is no longer on the table in the same way. For the bond, this means transformation. It will never return to the old cycles. It cannot. Because she has stepped beyond them, the frequency has shifted, and once energy rises, it cannot go back. From this moment forward, the connection exists only in truth. If he rises, it will be from choice, not pressure. If he comes forward, it will be because he faced his own shadows, not because she carried them for him. If he chooses her, it will be because he finally chose himself first. And if he doesn't, she is still whole. She is still free. She is still love. This is the eternal change. The divine feminine's choice rewrites the entire bond. It is no longer about waiting, proving, or chasing. It is about alignment. It is about resonance. It is about two souls standing whole or not standing together at all. And in this truth, the bond becomes what it was always meant to be. Not a chain, but a choice. Not a cycle, but a creation. Not a prison, but a mirror of freedom. So if you felt the shift, if you felt the bond no longer cycle the way it once did, it's because you've reached this stage. You've stepped into the moment where everything changes. And nothing, not his silence, not his delay, not his resistance, can take you back to who you were before, because you've chosen yourself. And that choice changes the bond forever. At the end of the twin flame journey, when every illusion has been stripped away, one truth remains. She was always the answer, not because she was supposed to save him, not because her love was meant to fix his wounds, not because her patience was a reward for his delay, but because the divine feminine carried the seed of awakening inside her all along. The masculine's running, his hiding, his silence, all of it was only ever a reflection of her choice to abandon or to honor herself. And now, standing in the final stage, she sees what was hidden all this time. She was never chasing him. She was chasing the parts of herself she had left behind. Every unanswered message was not rejection, but redirection. Every silence was not punishment, but preparation. Every delay was not failure, but initiation. Because each one of those moments was pushing her back into herself. She realizes now that the question was never, Will he choose me? The real question was always, will I choose myself? And the moment she does, she sees the entire map of the journey differently. It wasn't about waiting for him to wake up. It was about her remembering that she was already awake. It wasn't about him coming back. It was about her coming home, to her body, to her soul, to her truth. This is why she was always the answer, because the bond was never about fixing him. It was about her wholeness becoming the mirror that either awakens him or releases him. For the masculine, this realization burns, because he sees now that she never needed him in the way he thought. She was not powerless. She was not lost. She was not incomplete without him. She was always fire. She was always love. She was always whole. And that is the truth his soul cannot escape. Because once she embodies this, he knows the old dynamic is gone forever. The waiting is gone. The chasing is gone. The cycles are gone. What remains is truth, naked, unfiltered, undeniable. If he rises, it will be into that truth. If he doesn't, she is still free within it. Either way, her soul is no longer bound to illusion. This is the liberation of the feminine. She was never meant to be the savior, the caretaker, the martyr of this connection. She was meant to be the anchor, the one who embodies wholeness so deeply that the bond itself must align with it or fall away. And that is why the masculine's awakening can only begin here. Because without her stepping into herself, he will never face the weight of his own silence. Without her stillness, he will never feel the collapse of his excuses. Without her freedom, he will never confront the truth of his chains. So the journey ends where it began, with her, not in blame, not in loss, not in longing, but in remembrance. She was always the answer, not because she completes him, but because she completes herself. And in that completion, she becomes the living proof that love was never about waiting. It was always about embodying. It was always about freedom. It was always about truth. The masculine may come, he may not, but the feminine is already whole, already free, already love. And that is the final revelation of this journey. The divine feminine was never chasing union outside of herself. She was becoming it.